My name is Daniel Miles, I'm the Mayor of the Blue Mountains and I live in Stringwood. It's a really nice town.
It's not a town anymore, it's just a suburb.
Firstly, if I could give the apologies of a number of councillors who are unable to attend. Councillor Terry Hamilton has been very sick lately. She would like to be here and I have had some discussions with her about this meeting and about this issue. Also, Councillor Janet May sends her apologies.
Excuse me, could I also just say something? Just as a representative of the Blackheath Airstrip group, there's also a number of apologies to a number of people who weren't able to get here tonight as well.
Okay,
I'm not going to name them, but there are a lot of people.
Thank you. Before I begin, I'd like to also acknowledge my council colleague Chris Vanderclay is here. Councillor Chris Vanderclay, and we've had a request to video the meeting. So before I commence the meeting, I have a request that video recording of this public meeting be taken so that it can be posted on YouTube so as to be available to the broader community. This is a decision to be made by consensus. So note that the video will be taken only of the presentation and of the speakers at this end of the room and not of the audience. However, the audio component will be part of this record. Should you object to the meeting being recorded in this way, please raise your hand. There are two ways to deal with such an objection. The video recording can be stopped after the presentation by staff and therefore exclude questions asked by the audience after the presentation. Or the video recording should cease if an objector would wish to ask a question and recommence after to protect their privacy. Here I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the lands of the traditional owners, the Darug and Gundungurra peoples. We pay our respects to their elders past and present. And in addition to myself and Councillor Vanderclay, we also have Councillor L. Gibbs. Sorry about that, El. I didn't like you the other day. Yay! And up the front we have three of our council staff members who will be assisting with the presentation and also available to answer technical questions on this issue. Andy Turner, Manager of City Planning, Alan Pellamore, Manager of Assets, and Will Langevade, who is the Manager of Development Planning Services. Thank you, Will. We've allowed the time of 7:30 until about 8 o'clock. We'll have as much time as possible for questions. All I would ask is that everybody be considerate of others regarding differing points of view, and refrain from interjecting or disrupting staff or councillors or fellow residents, refrain from personal attacks, and stick to the issues at hand.
Well, hang on. I'm just wondering if your issues are our issues. If you want to tell us all of this, a lot of us know that. We've been following it. I mean, we do actually have some other issues other than the background, the planning, how it came to be here. We have other issues about the process of how it all happened, and it's none of our business.
Well, perhaps we can get through the presentation and any remaining questions that you have, we're happy to answer. The purpose of the meeting tonight is to provide an opportunity for interested residents to be informed about the background of the subdivision, what is involved in the sale of the land.
Why didn't you tell us all this before you made the decision?
Could we just proceed with the presentation and then there'll be time for questions afterwards? What this means for the Blackheath community and the Blue Mountains community. And this meeting has been called in response by myself to community interest in this matter. This meeting isn't a consultation with the community. The purpose of the meeting is not to consult or involve or seek input from residents or the broader community. It is to give you information.
So you're ticking a box.
The naming of this meeting as a public meeting does not and should not imply that it is. Public meetings come in all shapes and sizes. They are simply meetings that are open to the public, and we're here to hear your concerns.
We want the meeting to consult, not to be told.
If I could just continue. So this means there should not be an expectation that the decision of the council to proceed with the provision of services for this land and the subsequent sale of the land for residential development will be altered or reversed based on the views or objections expressed tonight or in recent weeks.
So why do we don't count?
The council is very well aware of the issues raised in support of or an objection to this project. I recognise it's a contentious issue for some residents. Community consultation on this matter has occurred. They occurred as part of local environment.
You might be pretty open.
We missed that.
On this issue? No, I don't think so.
It's occurred as part of, in this matter, as part of local environment plan 1991. That's the land zoning plan that covers
That's
the
not
land.
this issue.
I was still at school.
The reason for this will be further explained more in the presentation, if we could move to that, please.
Spend the whole thing, you're getting it, you'll get used to it.
At its meeting on 13th of March 2012, the Council approved the sale of 45 blocks, not 90 as some people have been told, of council-owned land in the registered and approved subdivision on Cathill Road, Blackheath, in completion of the state's provision of necessary roads and services. The Council has also resolved that the proceeds from the sale of this land will be used for the funding of the Springwood Community and Cultural Facility upgrade. Well, as I've already told you, I live in Springwood.
Important issues in Springwood get consultation, but this isn't important and it's not Springwood, it's Blackheath.
Thank you for your courtesy. Andy, would you like to begin the presentation?
Thank you for your courtesy. Yes, indeed.
There you go, everybody. Clearly, a number of you will be very familiar with the site history, but I don't think everybody will be familiar with the site history. And as it says up there, hopefully everybody can see the screen here. Clearly it was a subdivision from the late 1920s, 1928, with lots going on south in 1929. There was a brief history from 39 through to the early 50s of the site being used as an airstrip, and the land actually transferred from Blackheath municipality in 1949 to Winnana City Council. So look, I think it's useful just to see the subdivision plan as it is, and you probably can't see this from the back, so we'll ensure it's up on the website. It's really important to note that Beddington and Godson are included in that Sunrise subdivision, and clearly a number of those plots were developed and have continued to be developed through time. I'm not too sure again how clear this aerial view is. It shows the layout that was originally put out in the late 20s. It clearly shows that a substantial number of those blocks to the west, actually, of the existing or the proposed development area have been developed out. That form has been established, and so people have bought and developed on those lots over the intervening period. And really what council seeks to do is to build on that existing or that previous subdivision approval. In terms of the context or the more recent zoning history, as the Mayor has said, the LEP 91 remains the permanent planning document for the area, and basically from the early 80s onwards, the site has had a residential zone, so it's been available for residential development. The issue has been throughout the period that it hasn't had the services in there to enable that to go forward, and clearly that's something with city water development, so the last couple of years has changed. In terms of the LEP 1991, we have a residential bushland conservation zone which develops out at 8 lots per hectare. So that's the established planning framework within which council is operating right now. These are just the zoning maps from those relevant LEPs. So that's LEP 4 from the early 80s, and that's the residential bushland conservation, which is the current planning regime for the site. So what it's saying is, yes, you can develop residential units on that land, but that development needs to be environmentally sensitive, establish appropriate landscape character of native bushland, and the form of site and development, materials, colours and landscape needs to be appropriate to the character of the area. What the council's actually done through this process, and actually I'll take a step back, there was an unusual step in preparation of LEP 91 because council actually voted to have a public inquiry at that time. Now, I do appreciate this is 20 years ago, but at that time there was a public inquiry which submissions were invited, and there was quite some debate around the nature of submissions at that time, and clearly the inquiry chair at the time had found that the residential bushland conservation, residential zoning wasn't appropriate. I think a couple of submissions at the time from Blackheath Residents including to use the site as a sports field, and there was also a submission in at the time about reducing the density to 4 lots per hectare. But 74, the chair of the inquiry said no, the council's got it right in this instance, 8 lots per hectare, residential development on what is basically a flat developable site adjacent to the town is considered appropriate.
Could I just,
So, I was just going to finish actually. What the council's actually done with the land today and really taking that forward is in reflecting that residential push and conservation, the consolidation of the blocks, so moving forward on 45 rather than 90 blocks for the entire site, it's really a reflection of that character. Having less dense housing, which you transition from the high density housing adjacent through to the adjacent bushland as well. So, yeah, council has taken on board that transition aspect of the site.
that particular map that you put up there actually shows the proposed subdivision, and it also shows a lot more blocks that could potentially be developed. So is this statement that we're talking about tonight, is it the only development that the council is going to approach down there, or how far is this going to go further down towards having?
We're talking about the development of the consolidated block.
When you complete the presentation, a lot of your questions will be answered. And then we'll go to the questions after that.
Haven't been
People
answered so
see
far.
things like that, and they may very much appreciate